This National Professional Anglers Association video presentation is brought to you by Missouri Secrets Tackle and 241 Inc. Productions.
My name is Coach Seth Borton. I'm the head bass fishing coach at Adrian College. And that's just kind of one of the many hats that I wear, but that's kind of my full-time deal on top of some other repping scenarios and really just camps and all sorts of things that relate to the sport of fishing. But either way, super excited to be here. Super excited to see, the youth of the sport here. I got 7 guys from my team back at Adrian College here with me as well. So super excited to see you guys. I really think you guys have no idea how far ahead of the game something like the MPAA. I was just talking to one of my guys of, the last 15 years of my life, probably since I graduated college, have all been with different, involved in a show here, involved in this here, involved in that there. And really, as I sit and listen to a lot of different people speak, a lot of that was stuff that I learned over a 15-year period that if I would have taken it to heart is what you're kind of being laid out in front of you in 3 days. Some of my guys coming in, I couldn't tell you how much kind of the business side that they may have had coming in, but I know this in the last 3 or 4 years, any of the guys that have been a part of our team have seen and been exposed to, how the business side of it all comes together and what the shows and all these different things, how they come into play. And so that's kind of one thing that I talk to them about when I recruit. I'd love for them to all take their, fishing careers to the pro level, but I would like them to leave with an opportunity to at least, put their passion into play. So as I drop the word passion, you've heard it as a common thread amongst all the anybody else who spoke or any of the other media that you have there. Passion to profession. For you guys, the journey's on you right now. You guys are going to be so far ahead of the game just by absorbing what you're going to hear over these next few days, on top of the experience and exposure you guys have already had at the high school level. I see all these guys with fishing jerseys and all these different things that, 15 years ago even, when I was, sinking my teeth into what this whole professional thing looked like in regards to the sport of fishing, this stuff wasn't barely around at all. So just to see where we're at today and have a conference with, 70, 80 high school kids that are interested in taking things to the next level, you guys honestly have no idea. I think even my guys, to a certain degree, the guys on the college team, have seen just the expedited trend of how quickly things behind them at the high school and even at the junior level, junior high level, how fast things are growing. So I'm gonna play a video here, kind of preface a little bit more of what I'm gonna talk about, but I just want you to think about one thing. Most of you guys at some point in the process of getting yourself to this event or a conference like this, you can look back and go, man, that was kind of that moment. That was kind of that moment where the passion kicked in, everything kicked in to the point where you're like, man, I got to do something more with that. I got to see what else is out there with that. I ran into this scenario last year when we were ice fishing, and this is just my 3 kids. This is my youngest, Cruz, who was 5 at the time, my middle son, Ryder, who's 7 now, and then my oldest, which is my daughter. We got on a giant school crappie in the middle of a little basin at this place by my house, and you can kind of see, for me, looking back, I'll talk a little bit about my moment, but you can see, if you want to see passion personified, here it is. So if you could roll it.
What are we doing right now?
Fishing.
What are we catching?
Crappie.
Okay, this is an epic day. We're catching them like crazy.
Yeah.
Tatum just caught a 14, 15 incher. All right, Ryder, put it down.
I caught this
These are all crappie right here. You want to see some real kid excitement?
I caught this one. Get your
All right.
I got this one.
Ryder, let it go down. Let it go down. Let it go down. Further. Holy cow, look at the red lines coming. Look, Ryder, do your thing. Hold on.
Jerk. I think no.
All right, set the hook, buddy.
Oh, look at
Just go slow, go slow, go slow.
That's a monster. I saw that thing. That's a monster. It's a monster. It's a monster. Whoa.
Slow.
Stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Oh, Dad. That's the one that we're going to stuff it. It off.
Oh my gosh.
It took it off.
It snapped it. It's that big.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Good job. Yes.
Put it.
Big boy. Yes. He's a big boy. Yes.
Ryder, where's the bait? In his mouth?
In his mouth. It came off.
Either way, that was a picture from that day. A lot of different things ran through my mind as that came about. Normally, I don't have the candid camera rolling. I just happened to at that point when we got on a bunch. We let probably at least double that many go just because there was no need to take that many fish. But either way, that was one of those moments where I'm going, I wonder if that's a moment, if that's that moment for one of my kids where they're going, I really love this. I mean, obviously, there's a lot. They're all involved in sports, as many of you guys are, besides fishing. So there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of other sports in the mix. I played basketball in college. My wife played soccer at University of South Florida. So there's some other athletic things running in the mix there that, you know, I don't know where it's all going to lead. But I can tell you this, you know, after being all over the board with all sorts of different things in regards to the fishing world, there's not many more days that, you know, I enjoy more than going out, letting them spill the minnows, let them spill the worms, you know, fooling around on the ice, because there's plenty of times that get stressful. The days don't go well, you know, all sorts of different things. And, you know, that was kind of, I'm wondering in my mind if that will be a moment for them. So we'll see. I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you either way. So just real quickly, because I know I'm going to get long-winded here, this word passion that you're going to hear throughout this whole conference, these are three main things that, you know, that are four main things that really come into play for me when I look at how this passion for the sport of fishing has played a role in my life. For me, passion is motivation. Passion is if I'm passionate about something, I'm super enthusiastic. I work hard at the other things so I can free up time to be engaged in the things that I'm passionate about, whether it's fishing, whether it's things with the family. You know, it all boils down to planning your work, to work your plan, so that you can take care of the things you need to take care of, because you're going to get to do something that you're passionate about. So for me, passion's motivation. Secondly, passion is a playing field. If I'm passionate about something, it's something that I love, something I'm enthusiastic about, it's something that I want to connect with other people about or with. So for me, it's a playing field. I mean, all my jobs since I graduated college in 2005 have been involving or revolving around the hunting and fishing industry. Reps and all sorts of different things, and now as a college fishing coach. But essentially, secondly, it's a playing field. Thirdly, it's an opportunity to influence. You've heard that on multiple occasions, but the opportunity to influence people through something that you're passionate about, it comes off your tongue pretty easy. I mean, you know, you might struggle to talk about chemistry or math or whatever, but somebody drops fishing or hunting or your family or woodworking, if that's what you're into, whatever, and your ears perk up and you're ready to roll. I mean, you can talk the ins and outs of it. And so that's the third thing. It's opportunity to influence. And then lastly, just as Pat talked about briefly, honestly, it's an obligation. In my opinion, it's an obligation to make your voice heard about the things that are relevant within the sport, to make your voice heard to help grow the sport, and a lot of different things. So those are the four things for me that are kind of most closely related to that word passion and how that all comes together. Little bit of my background, foundational framework is what I kind of pulled this together. As you can see, my family's there in the middle. I've been married for 11 years. My wife, like I said, is from Florida. She played soccer in college, and my oldest, my daughter Tatum, is in the middle. She's a soccer fanatic. She loves to hang out and fish with us a little bit. They've been a little bit spoiled in regards to how many fish they've caught and the size of fish that they've caught at a young age, so I got to temper that a little bit. But either way, that's my foundation. That's my immediate foundation right there, and my wife and my 3 kids. Tatum's my oldest, then Ryder and Cruz, and then my dad in the middle of that top right picture. I have 2 brothers, but only one's there, and then my youngest. But either way, they're a large part of my foundation, just like most of your families are to you. If you didn't have somebody that strongly influenced you in regards to exploring what's out there relative to the fishing industry, you guys wouldn't be here. So as I look at my team and I look at a lot of the other high school teams that I see, mom and dad are sacrificing a lot. Maybe it's not mom and dad, maybe it's an aunt or uncle, maybe it's a close friend. Those are pivotal people in your life that, looking back, you'll want to find additional ways to say thank you. But if you can soak that in right now and find ways to say thank you to them right now while they're sacrificing a lot, especially of those of you that are involved in fishing. I see parents traveling probably further for the sport of fishing, towing boats and RVs and all sorts of stuff with fishing than I probably ever did in any of the other sports that I played, and I played them all. So just make sure you understand where your foundation is and the sacrifices that are being made, and let those people know. Not just with your family. I'll talk a little bit more how it relates to sponsors and everything else, but your families are sacrificing a lot, especially if you're here at a place like this. So a little bit of my personal timeline. Like I said, I played basketball in college. My upbringing was just riddled with all sorts of different sports. When I was in 7th grade, I don't know, being that this is the first time I've been up close to this area since that moment, so it's kind of ironic to be sharing fairly close, but there's a place called Apple Canyon Lake. Does anybody in here know where that's at? A couple people know where that's at. Either way, my uncle was involved in competitive bass fishing at the time. It's probably 2 hours south of here. Is that pretty close? Galena. Either way, my uncle was from there or had a place there, and that was really the first opportunity I had where I was like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. I mean, we were catching fish, catching fish like crazy, all artificial lures. I didn't have any idea what was really going on other than I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. And, I know he had made some money, won a boat, all sorts of things. So that was kind of that moment. I was a 7th grader at the time. My parents put us on the train from southern Michigan with Jackson and out to Chicago and then up to there. And that was kind of that moment for me where this kind of all started to really turn together. But it's funny that it was, a little bit south of here and it was at Apple Canyon. But either way, that's where it started. But then I had all these other things. I played on a lot of really good basketball teams growing up. My high school team played in state championship 3 out of my 4 years. And so I'm thinking, man, I'm kind of chaff that's blowing with the wind. I want to play basketball in college. So, I mean, that's what I chased. That's what I chased for quite a while. And, a 5'10" white kid playing basketball, that just doesn't go together. So there's a lot of other things that came into play there as far as that goes. But about my sophomore year in college, I'm going, when things don't go well on the basketball court, my focus is I'm going hunting. I'm going fishing. And I've got to figure out how to turn this whole what I want to do into a career. So as I can back up a little bit. When I was growing up, my dad was a slave driver, an absolute slave driver. Little did I know how much I was going to reap from what he was sowing when I was growing up as far as the hard work and stuff. But when I was young, I mean, he had us out in all conditions. It didn't matter whether it was warm, cold, rain, sleet, snow. We were shoveling snow. He had a lawn mowing landscape business. We were trimming bushes, weeding the garden, all sorts of stuff. And at that time, I had so much resentment to him because of how hard he made us work. But at that point, I really had no idea the things that were being instilled and the things that were being built within. And so looking back, I can say thank you. But going through it, all my mindset is, I'm not working like this. I'm going to do something that I want to do that I love, and I'm going to figure out a way to make money at it. And I don't know how many of you guys have had that scenario play out where you're thinking, man, I want to do something I want to do and I want to make money at it. Well, if it's, for me when I was young, because this whole competitive bass fishing thing hadn't really taken off like it had, I was going to play professional sports, and maybe you guys had that dream. Maybe some of you still do. I don't know. But either way, being hard-headed and being a sore loser, I wasn't willing to accept that until my sophomore year in college, which is probably a lot longer than most people hold on to a dream like that. But either way, it was just, that's how it was. My sophomore year, I knew that I had to do a 6-month internship, and that was in the back of my mind. How am I going to pull off a 6-month internship when I don't know anybody in the hunting or fishing industry, but I got to figure this out. So, long story short, called a bunch of different companies. I'm not ready to go there yet. Called a bunch of different companies, couldn't get something dialed in. Finally, after 3 or 4 calls to Bass Pro says, listen, we've never done an internship before. We'll do it. We'll figure it out. So either way, nonetheless, after my senior year of college, I did a 6-month internship at Bass Pro Shops and had a lot of different opportunities as a result of that internship. But because I was in the process of getting married, I never really went any further with Bass Pro right then after my internship. But either way, as I talk about the fact that, I had to work really hard to figure out who was going to allow me to do an internship when nobody was really there. And so that leads me to, you guys have no idea how far ahead you are if you start to make some contacts, if you start to gain some visibility, if you start to create some relationships with people that can help you in those scenarios when it comes time to, you have access to a whole room of people who you can start to build that relationship with that I had no idea even existed until I'm a senior in college. You guys are, you got probably 7th, 8th, all the way through, collegiate guys. So you just have no idea how far ahead of the game you are. But either way, as I was talking to Ben just a second ago before I stepped up here, how many people have heard the phrase, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know? How many people believe that that's how things work? More people believe that it's not who you know, it's what you know? Or it's not what you know, it's who you know? You hear what I'm saying? Either way. I choose not to believe that, and here's why. Number one, I didn't know anybody. So I couldn't operate with the fact that I had to bank on who I knew. And I don't know what you guys come from, but I got to assume that you're here because you're trying to meet some people. But ultimately, I choose to fall on, I don't believe in that. Because ultimately, who controls what you know? Who controls what you know? Anybody got an idea who controls what you know? I do. I control what I know. What about this? Who controls who you know? Blake Shelton does this thing. I do. I control who I know, and I control what I know. So ultimately, I control all aspects of that, okay? So being that that's the case, you control your own destiny by how well you're willing to communicate with people, by how well you're willing to engage, by following up with people that you choose that whole process. It's all up to you. And obviously that's why you're here, is because you're choosing to be an active player in that process. Here's last year's team photo. There was 23 guys on the team at that point. I think there's guys from 7 or 8 different states. We have guys from Montana, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. Might be a couple more. But either way, I've had interest from kids from Texas, Florida, Alabama, California, you name it, doesn't matter. I'm not opposed to people from further distances. It creates some additional logistical travel issues. But, when you start getting emails and you start getting all sorts of communication from people across the country, you guys have to understand how much power and value the industry sees in the youth of the sport. Obviously the college scene's grown, and it's actually grown backwards. I think the high school is more developed than the college scene, and the college scene took off as a result of there's got to be some place for these high schoolers to go, and now they're kind of both starting to feed off each other, which is a great problem to have. Since I started 4 years ago, there were probably 4 to 5 funded teams in the country. Now it's probably triple that, and there's probably close to 15 full-time coaches across the country. So at some point that number's going to explode really quick, and honestly where it's really going to explode, in my opinion, it's going to be the biggest jump for those, NAI Division I and II, NCAA Division III, those smaller schools in the 1,500 to 5,000 kids, because those are the ones that care about the visibility, the marketing, the value of what 30 kids to their school can bring. Just some quick hitters about what's kind of taken place as far as the team timeline. Like I said, I was hired 4 years ago. I landed 10 recruits that first year. First tournament out of the gate, I won't mention what happened, but it didn't go how we planned. I mean, we envisioned we're starting at the top. That's just how this thing's going to roll out. Didn't quite happen that way. I mean, I think there was a 170 boat field at Kentucky Lake, and we were 154th, 121st, 78th. I think Nick might have been the only one that was there for that scenario. But brand new. We had 2 brand new boats. One of the motors, the lower unit, blows right out of the gate. Just stuff that happens in tournament fishing and life. Things don't go your way. But either way, as you can see from there, I mean, after that, I don't know what the difference was. I mean, I know we do a lot in regards to, planning, the trips and, research and all sorts of stuff. But, as I go to the next slide, I know a lot of it had to do with some great partnerships. We achieved our first #1 ranking almost less than 2 years after the team started, which, over 900 different teams in the country to get to the #1 ranking in regards to the School of the Year thing was pretty cool. And like I said, 70 TV articles or 70, media segments in 3 or 4 years for a small school carries more weight, carries more power, carries more visibility than any sport in the history of our school ever has on a national platform. And that's where the emails and the exposure and all that stuff comes from. But either way, it's been a big deal. I mean, these guys have been around to see how that's transpired, and the excitement from the community as well as across any of the realms that these guys travel. It's been pretty cool to see. We had 4 All-Americans after our first year. We went on a 7-tournament stretch over this summer where we won 4 times. 2 of them were FLW events, and we had 2 teams in the top 5 every single time. Now, I mean, obviously, you'd love to be able to control where you finish, and the whole goal is to always try and just finish in the top. Obviously, you want to aim to win, but if you can finish consistently in the top 10, top 15, you're doing something. So what they pulled off in that stretch is why we are where we're at right now currently. We have 6 teams qualified for the 2018 National Championship, and right now that's where it's got us. But I can talk to success, and I can say a lot of it has to do with me, or the guys on the team are really good. I choose to believe it's a combination of a lot of different things, and the biggest part of that being, or not the biggest, but part of that being great partnerships. To me, great partnerships equals success. I split them. Just these are some of the people that we're connected with locally and regionally. And the reason I put the local people down is because each one of you have a core group or a core foundation of people that you know from your area that if you're willing to put in a little time and build a relationship with somebody, I'm pretty sure they're willing to invest in you. Some of you guys may even be here as a result of somebody forking the money for you to come here. What's the value of that for you? I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, if somebody paid for me to be here or all, as it relates to these people and what they've invested in our team and our program, it's a pretty big deal to me. I mean, that's why I think I get so frustrated if we have a poor, not a poor tournament with where we finish, but a poor tournament with how we act. You can have off days on the water as far as where you finish. You cannot have off days with your mouth and your engagement and what people's perception of you is. And so, as I look at, I don't even know, that's not even all of them, but there's probably 20 listed there. I can tell you a story of every single person on that, where that seed was planted, how long it took it to grow to the point where they were willing to engage and invest. A lot of those relationships, like I said, took place over a 15-year period. I mean, those were ones that, I nickeled and dimed and shined shoes and did whatever I had to build relationships with since the day I took that internship at Bass Pro. But again, a lot of you guys have people that right from your hometown that, what type of perception do they have of you? If you went and asked them, hey, could you help me pay an entry fee in this tournament? I'm not recommending you do that unless you have a solid relationship with them, unless, whatever. But either way, you should, based on how you go about things, you should be able to ask somebody that, and you should already know the answer before you ask them. I mean, what type of relationship you have with them. But either way, I can tell you, where they started, how it grew, and how it got to the point where they were willing to invest in our team. And so, all those people are important. They're important to me, and they're important to the guys on our team for a reason. Sponsorship equals partnership. These guys probably have heard me talk about so many different things that they're hearing right now a lot. But to me, when I'm going to talk to somebody that I feel like we have a similar platform, I don't talk sponsorship at all. I talk, how can we partner with you guys? How can we use our platform, whatever platform we have, whatever platform I'm able to sell them that we have, to help you guys expand yours? That's my number one pitch. If I don't feel like we can use our platform to help you expand yours, and there's not any ability for a partnership to exist, I'm probably not going to approach them, because I feel a sense of urgency and indebtedness to make sure that we're flying flags the way I would want my flag flown if I was that company. So my whole thing is, I don't talk sponsorship, I talk partnership. So the number one, the top thing that I wrote here is you got to understand your platform. For you guys, you're going, well, I don't know what my platform is. Well, to me, your platform is part of what Pat shared a little bit ago, in that most of these big companies, or most of these companies that are here today, understand the value and importance of you guys as the youth and the foundation of the sport. And so that's why more and more companies are jumping on board to create opportunities of discounts and product and everything else for you guys. But to me, that poses the question, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with your platform? If the fact that, to me, your platform is your youth, and that you're willing to do things that some of the older guys aren't going to do. You're willing to get in and, help set up booths, or, carry things in and out, do whatever it takes that somebody else isn't willing to do to get your foot through the door and give you another opportunity. Again, you got to recognize opportunities. For me, I was putting this puzzle piece together with half the puzzle for 15 years. I'm looking, I'm peeking around corners trying to figure out what's going on in that show, and where can I find an opportunity, and whose product do I really like? How can I build a relationship with them to the point where they're willing to do something for me? It was all sorts of, hey, can I help you carry that stuff out? Can I, and I wasn't overbearing about it, but I'm looking for every single opportunity I can find just to build some connection with somebody, because I didn't have any. Like I said, I didn't know anybody. So you guys have no idea. I mean, this day and age, it's all about making things easier, and there's plenty of benefits of that, but there's also some things that are lost in that mix of making things easy. So recognizing an opportunity. Some of that's going to be you guys being creative of, how can I find a way to start that relationship? How can I help? Where can I be of assistance? How can I make them remember me? And then capitalizing on those opportunities. Not be afraid to do whatever they, within reason, whatever they ask you to do. Or even sometimes taking ideas to them is probably even more important. I put the shine, baby, shine down there because, again, when I'm looking for an opportunity, especially when I was young, there wasn't anything you were going to ask me that I was going to be like, I'm not doing that. I'm a shoe shiner. I don't care. I'm looking for an opportunity to build a relationship. And then after you have those relationships, and there's going to be plenty of other seminars throughout these next couple days that are, how do I maintain that? How do I strengthen it? And how do I grow it to the next level? Because if those things aren't on your forefront of your mind as far as with each partnership you may have, you're going to lose them. I guarantee you'll lose them. If you're not constantly thinking, how can I maintain this? So for me, maintaining it at the very least comes down to letting every single, and it's tough. I mean, it gets really tough for me, and that's just half of them, to letting them, I'll try and send an email with pictures and a brief synopsis of whatever happened to every single person that we're partnered with when we get back from a tournament. And I'm not perfect at it, but that's the very least I can do. And I can tell you this from the responses I've got. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it, which is surprising. I mean, I'm not saying nobody, but very few. I mean, everyone that I send them an email saying, hey, we really appreciate your partnership. We finished 2nd, 5th, and 150th, and, this is what took place. They're sending me an email back a day later going, hey, this is awesome, thanks for the support, taking pictures with their banners in front of the team or hanging them on our houses wherever we stay, just for whatever visibility, for what it's worth. And I can tell you this, my relationships with every single person in 4 years has at least doubled, if not tripled, in what they're willing to invest, just by making sure they knew where we were at, what we were doing, how we were engaged, and I can guarantee you it'll go a long ways with them. So I'm trying to maintain, it's actually strengthening the relationship, and it's actually growing the relationship just by letting them know where I'm at, what we've been doing, and finding creative ways to expose people to their product. Kids fishing camps in my scenario, and all sorts of different things. So that's really my big focus in that whole sponsorship deal. That sponsorship stuff goes out the window because everybody's got their hand out. And how can I make my hand look different than everybody else's? To me, the only way I can do that is to go in there with a pair of work gloves on. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, and that all boils back to that scenario with how I was brought up is I gotta build that relationship by working harder than somebody else because that's all I know. That's all I know. So for me, it's worked. And I'm just telling you from 15 years, if I go in there with work gloves on instead of going, hey, what can you help me? Can you give me money? Can you give me this? Can you give me product? It's gone a lot. To me, it's gone a lot further than what it could have ever gone had I asked for a little bit of this or a little bit of that. I'll try to go quickly. Well, I don't even know if I'm going to go back to that. But you can see from some of the stuff that I've already talked about, and hopefully through my tone and all sorts of stuff, if you're passionate about something, you're going to be motivated. And if you're motivated, it's just figuring out how to channel that motivation into the right scenarios in order to get the results that you want. So I won't go any further into that. Diamonds in the details. To me, there's two really, really big scale tipping factors, and these guys on my team are tired of me talking about attention to detail. Yes, it translates on the water, but it really translates in life. If I'm willing to take the time to figure out what I can do to get myself an opportunity that somebody else is missing, and that's by looking at the details, I'm leapfrogging everybody around me. Yes, some of you guys are detail-oriented. Some of you guys aren't detail-oriented, but I can guarantee you at some point you got to look closely enough at something for you to pick up somebody else's something else that they missed and take it to the next level. You have to be willing to look at the details. Every one of you that's an angler, if you're not looking at the details of the given day, whether it be water clarity, wind direction, current, time of year, bait, no bait, all sorts of stuff. I mean, if you're not looking at all that stuff, you got no shot. You got no shot to make the adjustments on a given day on a new body of water that you've never been on. If you don't have a detail-oriented mind and an ability to look at things that other people are missing, you got no shot. You have to work hard at really, really understanding how do I put details into play. The other piece of that is time. Each of us have the same amount of time in the day, right? Each of us, 24-hour day. As long as we're alive, we all have the same amount of time in the day. The only thing that separates us is what we do with that time. For you guys, you're going to hear it over and over and over again. Social media this, partnerships this, finding ways to engage. Bottom line is what you choose to do with that time is what's going to separate you from the next person. Academically it will separate you. From an angling standpoint, it will separate you. There's never, and obviously balance is really important. You can't just think I'm going to be up 24 hours a day watching YouTube videos and whatever else. But there's absolutely things that you can do with the technology that you have. There's absolutely things that you can do regardless of the time of year, where you live, all sorts of stuff. So just because you live in the north, for us to live in the north and have the disadvantages that we have with seasons and all sorts of stuff, for us to be second in that ranking is crazy. And there's another Wisconsin Stevensport and some of these other colleges that are up in this area. There's a few hotbeds of teams that have really figured a few things out of. There's no excuses that are too big for us not to be successful. So it doesn't matter where you're at, where you're from. If you're willing to look intentionally at the details and you're willing to make intentional decisions about how you spend your time, you're going to separate yourself from other people. We hashtag everything these days, so this is details to me determine destination. Like I was telling each and every one of you guys, to be thankful and be grateful. Here's another thing that's went a long ways with any of the sponsors that I'm connected to. Ways to be remembered. Look for opportunities to help and ways to engage. You need to constantly be aware enough to see if a door needs held, if something needs picked up. Somebody drops something. I don't know anything. I don't care what it is. You have to find what that is and be ready to engage and make it happen. Obviously your parents are always telling you to go above and beyond. But how many of you are actually doing it? Simple stuff to me is, and I don't know if it's part of my upbringing or whatever, but excuse me, if I'm walking in someplace and there's trash, I don't know why I do it. I've even had some of them make fun of me for it, but it's just part of either you go above and beyond on a daily basis or you don't. And if you don't, I just think you're missing a major opportunity. Be on time and on point. I'm not saying I'm not perfect at being on time by any means, but I do work hard at trying to be on time. These guys can laugh about it because part of the test of them being at a meeting on time and all sorts of that stuff, I don't need to be there to know when they show up or what they're doing or any of that stuff. So some of the stuff that they, razz me about as far as if I'm on time to a meeting or not is part of me testing some of the water, so to speak. But either way, be on time, be on point. Whether you perfectly, whether you are phenomenal on the water or not, you can never have an off day with your mouth. And that's positively or negatively. I mean, obviously, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. But either way, you can't have an off day with how you represent people. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, find authentic ways to say thank you. The most authentic way that doesn't get used anymore is, at the very least or at the very most, whatever, however you want to look at it, send somebody. If you have a good conversation with somebody here, I'm telling you this, if you want to be remembered, get their business card, take 5 minutes, write them a quick letter. Hey, I appreciate the time you spent talking to me at the MPA conference. You really shared some stuff that I hadn't really thought about before. I appreciate your time. Guarantee you, if you ask for something down the road, they're going to say, Johnny, are you the one that sent me that letter? Yeah, that was me. What do you need? Guaranteed. It's a guarantee. You take the time to send somebody a thank you letter, and it doesn't even have to be to that extent, but I guarantee you they'll remember a handwritten letter. But either way, if you can get their business card, send them a quick email. I wouldn't probably send them a text unless I knew somebody a little bit better, but either way, if you do, text is probably okay. Just one extra thing that not everybody's doing, make sure you do it. One of the guys on my team, some of you guys, there's a lot of high schoolers in here. Jack Hippie is third-year member, junior of the team. He's been to 2 national championships. He's qualified for the next one. I just had some questions here that I thought may be pertinent to what some of the things you guys are going through. So we're going to go through these questions, and then right after we're done, if you guys have questions for myself or him or anyone else, feel free to come up. I have some team posters. If I can be of any assistance to any of you guys in regards to, how to navigate the college scene, what to look for, or even if you're interested in taking a look at Adrian in the program that we have, and I'm happy to talk to you. And if there's anything I can do in regards to that, I'm absolutely happy to engage there. But either way, so question number 1, what's been the hardest adjustment from high school to college fishing?
So you guys listen up. I don't have a mic.
You want this?
No, I'll be all right.
Was this on? Check.
This?
Yeah, there you go. High-tech redneck, baby.
There you go. Okay. So for me, one of the biggest things going from high school to college is time management. And what I mean by this is when you're on the road going to tournaments in high school, you can miss some class, miss 3, 4, 5 days of classes. It's fairly easy to get caught up. Freshman year, even through your last year of high school, you can get caught up pretty good. When you're in college, you miss one class, you're behind, and you know it. You miss 2 classes, 3 classes, 4 classes, you really got to be on top of things and know what's going on. So typically, myself and the other guys in the team, we're missing anywhere from 2 to at most 5 days of classes 2 to 4 times a year for these tournaments before we get out of classes for that end of semester.
Mind you, 5 days is the whole week of class. There isn't a Division I college football team in the country that's missing 5 days of class for a tournament, so not easy.
So for me, that's been one of the biggest things, is getting used to leaving from school, going and putting all of my focus on fishing and what I have to do to compete and compete at a higher level, and then having to come back and make sure all of my homework is done and turned in at the same quality it should be, even if I didn't miss classes. So that's one of the biggest things for me is time management, and Coach preaches that more than anybody I've ever heard. So that's one thing I can tell you guys to do, going from high school to the college level, and even other college guys. Your time management's huge, and it's going to help you out a lot in the long run.
Now's the time. Now's the time. I mean, obviously, there's probably all varying degrees of, academic focus from a lot of you guys. But if you don't force yourself to do it now and to actually dig in and try and push yourself, not only, with fishing stuff and sports stuff, but academically, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult down the road because you didn't take the time, you didn't put the time in right now to make it easier on yourself down the road. So good thoughts there. What do you wish you had more experience with heading into college or collegiate fishing?
So for me, I did a little bit of traveling in my high school tournaments, not a ton. But one big shock for me getting to college was when you're traveling to these tournaments. When I was in high school and I was go to tournaments, my boater was typically my dad, and he did all the driving. A lot of you guys traveling all over the country, when you're in high school, typically your dad, your boater, whomever you're with is doing the driving. If I could recommend one thing for you guys, it would be every opportunity you get to get behind the wheel and drive, do it. And I don't mean driving 5 minutes to the boat launch at your local lake. When you're traveling across the country to go to these tournaments, get behind the wheel and drive for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time and get used to it. Because when you get to college, you don't have a boater or your dad or your mom driving for you. It's me and another guy in the truck, and I'm responsible for getting myself and my partner to and from a tournament safely. And when I get done with a tournament on Saturday, we don't just come back, get in the truck, hang out, clean our stuff up, stay the night, and then get up in the morning and drive home. I finish a tournament, load the truck up, let's get back, because we got classes the next day, we have homework we got to get done. There's no taking breaks. So you guys got to be ready when you get to the college level to do stuff like that. I know when I got to the college level, I wasn't, and it was a big shock, and it's something you got to get used to real quick. So if I could tell you guys something to do in high school, it would be to get behind the wheel as best you can, back the boat in. That's another thing. I mean, I got guys on the team and guys that we compete against that don't have the skill when they get to college. Take those opportunities at the high school level to back the boat in, to drive it more, like I said. So that's a little bit that I wish I had a little more experience with coming into college.
Get behind both wheels. Get behind the wheel of the boat. Obviously not in the tournament if it's not allowed. But get behind the wheel of a truck as well. I mean, the more experience you have with that, I mean, we typically travel with, you know, as few as 3 trucks and 3 boats, but you know, the last term of the year at Sandusky Bay, we were 15 trucks and 15 boats deep to that event. Typically, it's around 4 to 6. I mean, we have 5 tow vehicles. There was a slide there. We have 3 wrapped trucks and 3 boats as well. But either way, 100% agree. Get some experience behind the wheel. Don't shy away from it. Do it in the setting that's going to accommodate for what skill set you have and what background that you have, but absolutely get yourself. I mean, these guys got to navigate safe, like he's saying, not only you know, in a vehicle in a long stretch, but also some of these bodies of water that these tournaments are held on, they're not chintzy bodies of water. I mean, we're talking easily able to, you know, push out 5-6 foot waves. I mean, whether it's Sandusky or whether it's, you know, the wrong wind direction on Kentucky Lake or Pickwick or anything like that. You got to know how to drive a boat. You got to know how to get where you're going without, you know, putting the front of the boat down into one. You know, so changing flats, all sorts of stuff. But either way, what's your favorite part of collegiate fishing?
For me, it's the camaraderie. You guys see it at the high school level. It gets only better when you get to college. You get to be with all your buddies. Just like any other sport, you're with your team, you get to travel with your team. I mean, you guys could see a handful of us sitting here joking. I mean, I got 8 of my guys right here on the team. We have fun with each other, and it's a good time. And it's an excuse to go fishing and have fun. So that'd be my favorite part about the college fishing scene.
What's your best nugget of advice for those planning to fish collegiately?
Biggest thing.
Got a nugget here?
Yeah, I got a nugget. My biggest thing for you guys would be to take every opportunity that you have, no matter how small or big it is. You guys are a step ahead of myself and the other college guys here. You're in high school and you're already at an MPAA conference meeting. You see my tag right here. I'm a new member. It's my first meeting here. So you guys are already a step ahead of myself and my other players, or teammates, excuse me. So take every opportunity you have and run with it. Doesn't matter, because you never know who you're going to meet, who you're going to run into. So just take every opportunity and don't waste it.
You guys are obviously already doing that, so it's really important. But again, we have no idea your background. We don't know if somebody just, you know, created an opportunity for you to be here and you're kind of sitting there going, oh, I got better things I could be doing. Well, ice fishing's good right now. We don't know. But you know whether you're engaged. You know what you're actually absorbing from this. And ultimately, you're the one that controls who you know. You control what you know. And if you're not here for the right reasons, that's fine. I mean, you can still have a good time, but somebody who is going to reap the rewards tenfold, and they're going to pass you up. That's just how it works. That's just how life works. So kudos to you guys for coming to an event like this. Like I said, it's going, I might as well hand you guys a microphone, because and some of the other adults in here are going, the things that even my kids or their kids or whatever, the opportunities that are being created for them are so far advanced from anything we were given or any of the opportunities we had at a young age, that really, if you have the foundational framework, of people investing in you, you got no reason to not do whatever you want to do. You can do absolutely whatever you want to do because you have great people behind you, supporting you, creating opportunities, and essentially it's up to you. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with your time? Because that's what's going to separate you. And obviously being here, if you're engaged and you're paying attention, it's a big piece of the separation process, no question.